had the backup plan.
Darrow's strategy was to mount an intensely personal attack against Bryan.
Darrow was fighting from a position where he thought that the large forces were against him, and so he's going to have to be as tough as possible.
Clarence Darrow tried to bait William Jennings Bryan, to set him up for the fall, as it were, by questioning his intelligence, by challenging his sincerity.
I'm not satisfied with their act.
Having put Bryan's integrity at issue, Darrow next called him to the stand, arguing that Bryan was an expert on the Bible. It was a ploy that would go down as one of the greatest maneuvers in the history of American trials.
It was a surprise to the assembled audiences, a surprise to the judge, it was a surprise to the prosecution.
The lead prosecutor, Tom Stewart, objected angrily that it was absurd for a lawyer to call his opponent as a witness. But Bryan insisted on taking the stand, playing straight into Darrow's hands.
When Bryan agreed to be on the stand himself, right, to answer for fundamentalism, to say, when I was called, I didn't back away.
I can say, so help me God, I will.
That was a dramatic scene.
Clarence Darrow was a street fighter. He's a street fighter as a litigator. And any good lawyer knows you never ask a question when the answer could possibly hurt you. And Bryan didn't see it coming. William Jennings Bryan had been warned before the trial even began, warned by none other than his wife, that this was possibly a disaster, that Clarence Darrow would try to make a fool of him and his religion. But Bryan thought he knew Darrow. They were old friends, and he thought Darrow would keep this on a high plane of discussing the relative merits of two worldviews. Well, Darrow didn't keep it on the high plane because he had a goal in mind, and he didn't care who he ran over to achieve that goal.
As word got out that Darrow had called Bryan as a witness, the crowd swelled beyond capacity, and the heat in the courtroom became intolerable. Judge Ralston ordered that the entire trial be moved to a platform outside the courthouse. A platform where Clarence Darrow would execute his long-planned attack on Bryan and his anti-evolution crusade. Gathered around the platform in a crushing heat, crowds waited for what seemed an impossible event, a direct showdown between William Jennings Bryan and Clarence Darrow, where old-time religion would be tested against modern science. It was a historic confrontation that is reenacted every summer in Dayton.
The defense calls Mr. Bryan as a witness.
Calling a lawyer who represents a client?
I'm going to let Mr. Bryan control.
William Jennings Bryan took the stand on a promise. The promise was that if Darrow got to question him on the stand, then he would get to question Darrow.
I can say, so help me God, I will tell the truth.
And I take it that you will tell the truth, Mr. Bryan. Now, you have given considerable study to the Bible, haven't you, Mr. Bryan?
Yes, sir, I have tried to.
You claim that everything in the Bible should be literally interpreted.
I believe everything in the Bible should be accepted as it is given there.
Now, when you read that Jonah swallowed the whale, or the whale swallowed Jonah, excuse me, please, how do you literally interpret that?
When I read the big fish swallow Jonah, it does not say whale.
Well, now you say the big fish swallowed Jonah. Let's see, he remained there 3 days, and then he spewed him upon the land.
Yes, sir, and let me add, one miracle is just as easy to believe as another.
Just as hard.
It's just as easy for me to believe the miracle of Jonah as it is any other miracle in the Bible.
Do you believe the big fish was made to swallow Jonah?
You guess. You evolutionists guess.
Well, when we do guess, we have a sense to guess right.
Bryan wasn't expecting trouble on the stand. He was expecting questions about evolution, and he'd be ready to answer those questions. with passages taken right out of his stump speeches showing the dangers of teaching evolution, the dangers of Darwinism. So Clarence Darrow never asked about evolution because he knew Brian would be ready on those.
And you believe that Joshua made the sun stand still.
What he did was catch Brian unprepared on questions about the credibility of the Bible. Questions like, where did Cain get his wife? There's no good answer to this question, and everyone knows it.
How long ago was the flood, Mr. Bryan?
2348 years BC.
Well, 2348 years BC. Now, the Bible that you have offered in evidence says that 4,200 years ago, there was not a living thing on the face of the earth, excepting the people in the ark, the animals in the ark, and the fishes. Don't you know that there is any number of civilizations that can be traced back to more than 5,000 years?
When scientists differ from 24 million to 306 million years as to when life came here, I want them to come nearer together before they demand of me to give up my belief in the Bible.
You believe that every civilization on earth, every living thing except possibly the fish, were wiped out by the flood. And then whatever human beings, including all the tribes that inhabited the world and all the animals, came onto the earth since the flood. Do you know a scientific man on the face of this earth who would believe any such thing?
For 2 hours, Darrow relentlessly questioned Brian about geology, astronomy, and the history of mankind. It was a performance that he hoped would be seen as a triumph of reason over religion.
Are you really sure about every single thing in the Bible? Brian's answer should have been, of course not. This is religion. This is the things we believe. This is what supports our life. This is like love and beauty. What are you talking about? But he doesn't get a chance to because Darrow asks pointed questions, which is what you're allowed to do in a courtroom.
I'm objecting to his cross-examination of his own witness.
I want him to have all the latitude he wants, for I'm going to have some latitude when he gets up here.
Do you consider the story of Joshua the sun a miracle?
I believe what the Bible says. I suppose you mean that the earth stood still.
Well, now, Mr. Bryan, have you ever pondered what would have happened to the earth if it had stood still?
No, sir.
We look at that trial and we want to feel triumph with Darrow, and yet doesn't necessarily seem to be standing up for science. He seems to be standing up for telling a little girl that Santa Claus doesn't exist.
You don't know how old they are, is that right?
No, I don't, but I suppose you do.
Emotions rose with the afternoon heat, and the cross-examination began to spiral out of control.
These gentlemen did not come here to try this case. They came here to try revealed religion. I'm here to defend it, and they can ask me any question they please.
Great applause from the bleachers.
Those are the people whom you insult.
You insult every man of science and learning because he does not believe in your full religion.
I will not stand for that.
For what he is doing.
I'm talking of both of you.
What is the purpose of this examination?
The only reason we called Mr. Bryan for a witness is because he is a student of the Bible and supposed to know what the Bible means.
The purpose is to cast ridicule on everybody who believes in the Bible.
The purpose is to prevent bigots and ignoramuses from controlling the education of the United States. You know it, and that's all.
I am simply trying to protect the Bible from the greatest atheist or agnostic in the United States. I want the newspapers to know that I am not afraid to get on the stand in front of him and let him do his worst. I want the world to know. I answered his question, so he cannot go out and tell his atheistic friends that I would not answer his question.
With all legal decorum falling away, Judge Ralston felt compelled to intervene.
Court is adjourned until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Later that afternoon, Ralston delivered a new ruling to the lawyers. The case had veered completely away from whether Scopes had taught evolution, and so there would be no further cross-examination of either Brian or Darrow. The following day, Darrow rested his case, but gave no closing argument. It was a calculated move that, under a unique Tennessee rule, reduced Brian and the prosecution to silence.
When this happened, Brian was devastated.